So oftentimes, and usually, the Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel corresponds with Parshat Shemini, which is the Parsha that is in the book of Leviticus. It's just to give us the context. We're deep in the book of Leviticus now, which is the book of our priestly service. It's the book that teaches us how to be a priestly nation, an Or Lagoim in the world. And I find it very poignant and instructive what we learn from this week's Parsha in terms of how we orient ourselves around the Holocaust. So this week's Parsha deals with Shmini, means the 8th day. It's talking about the process in which there's a sanctification of the Mishkan, the place that will be the physical container for divine presence in the world. And that's really the archetype that we're working with in terms of our priestly service as a nation, is how do we sanctify the material world to bring godly light in through it. And that's happening with this 8th day of the dedication of the Mishkan. And so we're learning about how to sanctify physical space. The way in which that is done is via sacrifices. That is the archetype that we're working with. So there's the sacrifices of the animals that enacts this bringing down of the godliness into the physical world. But it's not just a sacrifice of the animals, because in this storyline we see also the unfortunate death of Nadav and Avihu, the Aaron's sons, the priests, the death of the priests who, in the middle of this incredible ritual and dedication, all of a sudden the fire of God comes down and consumes Aaron's 2 sons. And it's this shocking moment in the middle of an otherwise really glorious experience for everybody, where suddenly Aaron's sons are taken and killed. And what we're taught is that Aaron's response to this is silence. So this is the first place I think that the Parsha is coming to guide us how to deal with something that feels horrific and beyond our comprehension and painful and a huge loss, but it's within some sort of a context of a priestly work. Is you take a stance of silence. There are certain things that are beyond our comprehension. There are certain things that are beyond our expression and our understanding and our articulation of these are the reasons why they died. No, you go into a space of silence. And so too, when we think about the Holocaust, we need to enter into an orientation of this is something that is beyond our pay grade entirely. We cannot be the ones to point fingers and say, oh, it's because of X, Y, and Z. And we enter into a place of connection with the divine, openness to God's will, which baffling as it may be, and a place of silence. So that's our first orientation. But I think that there's also an additional orientation that might feel a little bit contradictory, but I think it can work in tandem with that stands out for me when I look at the context of this dedication of this sacred space and how we become a priestly nation, is that the Jewish people were sacrificed. There was a historical sacrifice that somehow got played out. And that's part of how I view it. Keep in mind that also, I don't know what I'm talking about, and this is beyond my comprehension, but I'm talking about for myself and how I'm making sense of the Holocaust and the consistent sacrificial lamb that is the Jewish people, is someplace where this is part of our priestly service in the world, is that we are somehow called to sacrifice ourselves. It's the priest's job to bring the sacrifices on the one hand, but on the other hand, sometimes to be the sacrifice. And which seems, overwhelming and disturbing and on many levels, but I think it's actually really helpful and important. I know for me personally, living here in Israel and seeing how the world is reacting, the Jew hatred, and the Jewish people are continuing to be a sacrificial lamb for the world. And the goal is to zone in on, double down on our sense of priestly service. how am I being a priest in the middle of this? And the job of a priest is to connect humanity with God. The job of a priestly nation is to bring godly light into the mundane material world. And as long as we stay, straight focused on that goal and that mission and that calling, then we are doing our work. And the more that we take on the mantle of our priestly work, please God, the personal sacrifices just fade when it comes to a place where I am aligned with my highest calling of being a person who reveals godliness in the world. And that's our job, as the world is vilifying us and as the world is misunderstanding us so terribly, as they've done so many times. Remember that this is part of our priestly service, is part of our highest calling, and just keeping our connection to the divine and our service as the Kohanim for the world is what's going to allow us to walk through this with grace and to bring sanctification into the world. Shabbat